Hi, this is MovieGuy 2005. Welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be doing a movie review on the 1982 animated film, The Secret of NIMH. Let's go ahead and start with the plot, shall we? So basically the plot concerns Mrs. Brisby, who I'm going to be referring to as Elizabeth for obvious reasons that I'll get to in a moment. Elizabeth is a widowed field mouse of 4 children. They live in a cinder block on a farm owned by the Fitzgibbons family. Elizabeth intends to move her family out of the field as plowing time begins to approach. But Elizabeth's youngest son, Timothy, falls sick and ill. And Elizabeth meets Mr. Ages, who diagnoses Timothy's illness as pneumonia. Mr. Ages gives Elizabeth medicine, then he warns her that Timothy has to stay inside for at least 3 weeks, otherwise he will die if he gets outside, because of the cold chills in the air. Then Elizabeth eventually meets a crow named Jeremy, who leads Elizabeth to the Great Owl. Elizabeth meets the Great Owl. The Great Owl tells Elizabeth to go to the colony of rats that's hidden under a rose bush. Elizabeth goes in, tries to find Nicodemus, gets chased away by an aggressive rat guard, Brutus. Then Elizabeth meets Mr. Ages, who has a broken leg. And along the way, Elizabeth meets Jenner and meets Justin. And Elizabeth eventually finds Nicodemus. She meets him. Elizabeth discovers that many years ago, the rats were part of a series of experiments conducted by NIMH. For those that don't know, it's an acronym for National Institute of Mental Health. And the rats were part of experiments that gave them human-like intelligence, even extended their lifespan. And they can't really live like typical rats would. And they have to have human technology to survive by stealing it. But that would also put them at a risk of being discovered. Then Nicodemus gives her an amulet that activates if the wearer of the amulet has a courageous heart. The rats then agree to move her home out of respect for Jonathan, but the cat has to be drugged first, the cat named Dragon, that is. Mrs. Brisby goes inside the Fitzgibbons' home, drugs Dragon's bowl, quickly tries to free. The son catches Elizabeth, puts her in a bird cage, and the rats are moving the home. Jenner plots to kill Nicodemus, and he does so by sabotaging the process, causing it to fall apart and crushing Nicodemus to death. Then there's a phone call about the rats. There's a phone call with the guy wanting the rats exterminated. Elizabeth Brisby flees the bird cage. She goes back to warn the rats that NIMH is approaching and the rats are going to be all exterminated. She finds out that Nicodemus is dead. Jenner fights Elizabeth and the amulet. Sullivan warns Justin that Jenner is attacking Elizabeth. Justin helps Elizabeth, and then Justin and Jenner get into a sword fight. Jenner mortally wounds Sullivan, and then later pulls out a little knife, throws it, gets into Jenner's back, and then he dies, and then Sullivan dies as well. Then eventually the Brisby home starts to sink in the mud. Elizabeth and the rats try to help it back up, but they can't. And then basically all hope is lost. At least so we thought. Anyway. Then Elizabeth has her courage. The amulet activates, and then she uses it to pull it back up and then move it to safety. Then the next day, the rats and their now new leader, Justin, they move out of Thorn Valley. Timothy starts to recover. Jeremy falls in love with a female crow, and then the film ends. So that's basically the plot of the film. I'd also like to mention that this is based on the children's book, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of NIMH by Richard C. O'Brien. Now, what do I think of the movie itself? Honestly, I loved this movie. I thought it was a genuinely admirable and just a masterful work of animation. Just excellent, top-notch animation. You have a great voice cast in this as well. Elizabeth Hartman as Mrs. Brisby, who I call Elizabeth Brisby because, of course, to pay respects and to pay tribute to Elizabeth Hartman, because for those that don't know, this is very sad and very tragic, so bear with me. Sadly, Elizabeth Hartman took her own life sometime after this film came out. I think it was 1987. And it was really sad, and what she was going through and all that stuff. But not only do you have Elizabeth Hartman in the film, you also have Dom DeLuise, who voices Jeremy. You have Arthur Millet, or Arthur Millet. I think that's how you say his name. I'm really bad with pronouncing names. So, you have Derek Jacobi as Nicodemus, and you have John Carradine as the Great Owl, who John Carradine, he was in a lot of movies back in the day. If you look at his filmography, there's a shitload of movies. There's a shitload of films. He was everywhere back in the day. And I think all the voice actors do a really, really good job playing their respective characters, or at least voicing their respective characters, I should say. John Carradine's voice as the Great Owl just gives me chills down my spine, because he just did it so well, playing a kind of menacing, very ominous figure, the Great Owl with the glowing yellow eyes. And great character of Elizabeth Brisby. She's a mother who's taking care of her kids, and I like that it's not the typical brave hero, the badass warrior, fearless hero, that all that kind of stuff. She's just a widowed mother of 4 children who is brave, who she's kind of timid and fearful and kind of shy, but then she tries to overcome all that by protecting her kids. And I like that, to be honest. I do think is unique. I do think it's inspirational as well. So, and I think Elizabeth Hartman just the way she voices the characters, she just she just plays it, she just voices it with just such sweet innocence to the character. And you actually feel sympathetic towards Mrs. Brisby because, you know, she like lost her husband, she's taking care of her kids and all that sort of stuff. Everybody else just makes it their own character for me. They all like do a really good job. And you have this music by Jerry Goldsmith, which he composed the music scores for a lot of movies as well. I mean, like he was everywhere in terms of music composing for like a lot of iconic movies back in the day. I'd like to mention that this was also the directional debut for Don Bluth, who would go on to direct An American Tail, The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Anastasia, Titan A.E. Those are some of the films that may or may not be well known. I believe most Don Bluth fans consider this one to be his magnum opus, his masterpiece, his best work. And I can honestly see why. I mean, it's just excellent in every way. I do definitely think this is one of the best animated films of all time. And it's just a classic. I mean, what more can you really say about it that hasn't already been said before? So, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend The Secret of NIMH? Oh, absolutely. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of animated movies. And if you're like a fan of Don Bluth and haven't seen this one, definitely go check it out. It's worth a watch. You will not be disappointed at all. So yeah, that concludes my review for The Secret of NIMH. As always, thank you guys for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.